Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. Welcome back to Policy and Rights here on Depictions Media Radio. Hey, we all go to the grocery store, and if you're not raising your hand saying that you go to the grocery store, you have somebody go to the grocery store for you. Oh wait, you can't afford food? On a serious note, that is a real problem, and a problem that a lot of Canadians are facing. That the people of Canada are missing meals, winding up at food banks, and all because inflation is out of control. Our economy is so far tipped it towards the wealthy that there are people that, even if they're working 3 or 4 jobs, still have trouble making ends meet. And it shouldn't be that way. We're going to hear from a couple people that are going to discuss that. One is the leader of the Communist Party, and the other one is Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party. The Conservative, let me just say this, that the Conservatives don't have exactly the greatest track record in comparison to the Liberals. That they have put programs in place that have wasted money, raised taxes, and they have done a lot also that have hurt the working class people. If our two choices are between the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party, we're picking, well, which side hurts less? Pierre Poilievre is going to talk about how he wants to make sure that the energy sector can be increased, and how he wants to make sure that permits can be issued for mining projects and for LNG projects and things like that. Yeah, it sounds good, but when are the Liberals or the Conservatives going to put policies in place that actually tells the large corporations that back them that, hey, the average guy needs to make a wage that he can pay his bills from off of one job? It would be nice to be able to work with some and spend time with family, children, and a little leisure time. That doesn't exist. What we have in place is not employment, it's enslavement. And the Liberals and the Conservatives are going to keep pushing for that. Well, I'm going to fill you in on another little secret, that the NDP isn't going to be too much further behind, because they represent the unions, which are trying to take even more money from us. Yep, that's right. The labor unions aren't exactly for the laborers. Their labor unions are more for the bigger corporations. It's about time we started finding out the truth, started researching into who's backing our political figures, and then start voting for those political figures that don't have a corporate backer. Maybe that'll start fixing the economy, start fixing policies, so that we, as the working class people, can have just a little bit of the more than the crumbs that are tossed at us. So, Anyway, we're going to hear from the Communist Party, and then we'll hear from Pierre Poilievre as he talks about taxes and what the liberal tax policies are looking like, and how mining permits, LNG permits, are being held up by, as he calls it, the gatekeepers.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Rowley, and I am the leader of the federally registered Communist Party of Canada. And with me is Adrien Welsh, the leader of the Parti Communiste de Quebec and a member of the Communist Party's Executive Committee. I should note that the Communist Party is the second oldest party in the country, founded in 1921 in Guelph, Ontario. Yesterday, a parliamentary subcommittee met with the CEOs of three of Canada's biggest and most profitable grocery chains to ask them about the skyrocketing price of the food they sell and the extraordinary profits they are raking up as a result. Their answers, which ranged from "it isn't that much" to "we're in business to make a profit," won't satisfy consumers. Who are working people who are forced to pay these prices despite their declining wages, their real wages, and living standards, because everybody has to eat. Food prices rose 10.2% last year and are projected to rise a further 5 to 7%, which will increase the price of groceries by $1,000 this year for a family of four. Loblaws profits rose 40% in 3 months last year, and another 10% in their most recent filings. Loblaws profits were so exorbitant that they raked in excess profits of $1 million every day of the year in 2022. Metro and Sobeys weren't far behind. But scandalous profits aren't limited to the grocery chains. The oil and gas companies increased their profits by $38 billion, or 1,000%, since 2019, by increasing the price of gas to $2 a liter last year, preparing the public for similar hikes this year. Mining companies saw a 700% increase in profits, while the banks raked in $57 billion. Corporate landlords who took advantage of the shortage of affordable housing and the absence of rent control legislation in Canada raised rents by 12.4% last year. In Atlantic Canada, they hit even harder, raising rents by 32.2%, and they're not done. They do it because they can, and that's the problem. Overall, after-tax profits increased by 59% to $456 billion in 2021, then jumped to an astonishing $523 billion just 6 months later. In the 15 most profitable sectors, after-tax profits grew by 89% in the most recent 12 months, compared to the 4 quarters before the pandemic hit. The Bank of Canada has raised interest rates 8 times in 11 months and said earlier this week that they're prepared to raise the rate again. Meantime, the banks, who raked in $57 billion in profits last year, have set aside $2.5 billion to cover expected mortgage defaults. This means the banks will seize the homes and the equity in them of many young and not so young people who scrape together a down payment using all of their savings, leaving them with nothing. The recession we're now in has been tipped in large part as a result of enormous household debt in Canada, the highest level of all the OECD countries. It's caused by high interest rates, high mortgage and housing costs, high credit card interest rates and debts, combined with falling real wages, down 2.5% last year alone after stagnating for previous 3 decades, and now large layoffs and growing unemployment. Well, none of this is secret. though corporate executives have done their best to downplay this enormous transfer of wealth from the pockets and paychecks of working people into the corporate vaults. It's all of this that the Parliamentary Committee could and should investigate, and that the government and Parliament must act to reverse. We call on the government and on Parliament to act now to protect consumers and all working people by rolling back and freezing prices on food, fuel, and rents, by rolling back and freezing interest rates, by raising wages, pensions, and enacting a guaranteed annual livable income, by expanding employment insurance to cover all the unemployed for the full duration of unemployment at 90% of previous earnings, by creating jobs, shortening the work week to 32 hours for 40 hours take-home pay, build value-added manufacturing and secondary industry, build 3 million units of affordable social housing for rent and for sale, enact rent control legislation covering all tenants across the country, end privatization, fund Medicare, education, public services, and social programs, and transition to publicly owned renewable energy. Double corporate taxes, enact a windfall profits tax, and enact wealth and inheritance taxes on the rich. Fund municipalities. And finally, cut the military budget by 75%, withdraw from NATO, and call for a peaceful political settlement to the war in Ukraine. Canadian governments have implemented many of these policies in the past, including price rollbacks, wage pensions and EI increases, social housing construction, expansion and funding of Medicare, social programs, public services, and they need to do this today and more. They have the power to do it. What's lacking is the political will. Polls consistently show that these are the most important issues to working people: homeowners, tenants, women, seniors, students, workers, farmers, voters today. And the growing strike movement and actions by labor and social movements show that masses of people are moving into action to demand change. Parliament and the government must act now to curb corporate power and profits, and instead put people's needs before corporate profits and greed. The Communist Party is campaigning across Canada and winning strong and active support for these policies across the spectrum. A movement is building. Thank you. And before we take your questions, let me pass the mic to Adrien Welsh.
Bonjour. Vous venez d'entendre donc Elizabeth Rowley, qui est la chef du Parti communiste du Canada. Et c'est maintenant moi qui ferai la présentation en français. Mon nom est Adrien Welsh et je suis le chef du Parti communiste du Québec et membre du comité exécutif du Parti communiste du Canada. Je veux souligner d'abord que le Parti communiste du Canada est un parti politique enregistré au fédéral. Et je veux souligner également que c'est le deuxième plus ancien parti au pays, fondé à Guelph, en Ontario, en 1921. Si on est ici, c'est qu'hier, un sous-comité parlementaire a rencontré les PDG des 3 grands groupes de distribution les plus importants et les mieux nantis. On les a questionnés au sujet des prix exorbitants des aliments qu'ils vendent, de même qu'au sujet des profits qu'ils en ont extorqués. Leurs réponses, variant entre « c'est pas si pire » à « nous, on est en affaires pour faire de l'argent », ne satisfont pas les consommateurs. Pour la plupart des travailleurs qui sont forcés de payer ces prix malgré le fait que leur salaire réel et leur niveau de vie continuent de décroître. C'est une évidence, tout le monde a le droit, peut et doit manger. Les prix des aliments ont augmenté de 10,2% l'an dernier et sont censés croître d'un autre 5 à 7% cette année. Le panier d'épicerie, quant à lui, coûtera environ 1 000 $ de plus pour une famille de 4 personnes. Les profits de l'Oblast, et l'Oblast seulement, ont cru de 40% en 3 mois l'an dernier et d'un 10% supplémentaire selon leur plus récent rapport. Leurs profits sont si exorbitants qu'en 2022, ils ont généré 1 million de dollars par jour. Ça, c'est pour l'Oblast. Métro et Sobeys ne sont pas en reste. Mais les profits scandaleux ne sont pas limités à l'industrie alimentaire. Les monopoles gaziers et pétroliers ont vu leurs profits croître de 30 milliards de dollars, soit 1000% depuis 2019, et ce, notamment en augmentant le prix à la pompe à 2 dollars le litre l'an dernier. Ils préparent les consommateurs à des hausses similaires cette année. Et les profits des compagnies minières ont, eux, augmenté de 700% pendant que celui des banques atteint 57 milliards de dollars. Les monopoles immobiliers ont profité du manque de logements abordables et d'un contrôle des loyers au Canada pour augmenter leurs profits de 12,4% l'an dernier. Et dans les maritimes, c'est encore pire, avec des augmentations de loyers de 32,2%. Et ce n'est pas fini. S'ils continuent, et ils vont continuer, parce qu'ils le peuvent. En moyenne, les bénéfices nets des entreprises ont augmenté de 59%, les portant à 456 milliards de dollars en 2021. Ils ont grimpé à 523 milliards seulement 6 mois plus tard. Dans les 15 secteurs les plus lucratifs, ils ont augmenté de 89% au cours des 12 derniers mois en comparaison avec les 4 trimestres précédant la pandémie. La Banque du Canada a augmenté, elle, ses taux d'intérêt à 8 reprises en 11 mois. Hier, elle annonçait qu'elle pourrait les augmenter encore. Pendant ce temps, les banques qui ont généré, je le rappelle, 57 milliards de dollars en profit, ont thésaurisé 2,5 milliards pour couvrir les défauts de paiement hypothécaire escomptés. Autrement dit, elles saisiront les maisons et les biens des jeunes et des moins jeunes qui se saignent aux 4 veines pour rembourser une hypothèque avec toutes leurs économies. Et ils se retrouveront sur la paille. La récession dans laquelle nous sommes empêtrés est en grande partie le résultat des dettes à la consommation faramineuses qui sont, pour le Canada, les plus importantes par ménage de l'ensemble de l'OCDE. Celles-ci sont causées par des taux d'intérêt, d'hypothèques, de crédits à la consommation et de loyers élevés, ainsi que des salaires réduits, des salaires de misère. On parle de moins 2,5% en termes de salaire net, et ça c'est après avoir stagné pendant 3 décennies. Et aujourd'hui, ce qui pointe à l'horizon, ce sont des mises à pied massives ainsi qu'un taux de chômage croissant. C'est un secret de polichinelle, bien que le patronat mette tout en branle pour amoindrir les conséquences de ce transfert d'argent du travail vers le capital, d'argent de nos salaires vers les profits des actionnaires. Voilà ce que le comité parlementaire devrait et pourrait étudier. Voilà ce que le gouvernement et le Parlement doivent renverser. Nous appelons donc le gouvernement et le Parlement à agir dès maintenant pour protéger les consommateurs et la classe ouvrière en appliquant les mesures suivantes. Réduire et imposer un moratoire sur les prix des biens de première nécessité, soit l'aliment, l'énergie et les loyers. Réduire et imposer un moratoire sur les taux d'intérêt. Augmenter les salaires, les retraites et introduire un revenu viable, annuel, garanti. Étendre l'assurance chômage de sorte qu'elle couvre toutes les personnes privées d'emploi pendant toute la durée de chômage et ce à hauteur de 90% de leur dernier revenu. Créer des emplois, réduire la semaine de travail à 32 heures, payer 40 heures. Revitaliser les industries secondaires à valeur ajoutée. Construire 3 millions d'unités de logements sociaux abordables, accessibles à la vente et à la location. Imposer un contrôle des prix sur les loyers qui couvrira tous les locataires, mettre fin aux privatisations en refinançant l'assurance maladie, l'éducation et les services publics et sociaux en général, initier une transition vers une énergie renouvelable verte sous contrôle public, doubler les profits des entreprises, introduire une taxe sur le capital ainsi que sur les grandes fortunes et les héritages, financer les municipalités, réduire enfin le budget militaire de 75%, se retirer de l'OTAN et appeler à une solution pacifique à la guerre en Ukraine. Les gouvernements canadiens ont déjà implanté ce genre de politique par le passé, incluant un minerval sur les prix, l'augmentation des salaires, retraites et prestations d'assurance-emploi, la construction de logements sociaux, l'expansion et le financement de l'assurance maladie, des programmes sociaux et des services publics. Aujourd'hui, plus que jamais, il doit le faire, il en a le pouvoir, mais il n'en a pas la volonté politique. Les sondages, pourtant, le rappellent constamment. Ces questions sont les plus importantes pour les travailleurs et les travailleuses et pour le peuple aujourd'hui. Les mouvements de grève qui s'intensifient présentement ici et ailleurs dans le monde, de même que les autres actions par le mouvement syndical et les mouvements démocratiques, prouvent que les masses sont en mouvement et exigent du changement. Le Parlement, le gouvernement doivent agir maintenant pour faire fléchir le pouvoir des monopoles et des grandes entreprises, du monde du capital et des profits, pour donner la priorité au peuple et non aux puissances d'argent. Le Parti communiste fait campagne à travers le pays. Il gagne un appui actif envers ses demandes et ses politiques dans tous les domaines. Un mouvement est en marche. Nous vous remercions et vous assurons de notre entière disposition maintenant à répondre à vos questions et recevoir vos commentaires. Je le ferai moi en français et Liz répondra aux questions qui seront en anglais.
I don't have any questions. Nous n'avons aucune question. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Merci d'être venu. Ça n'a pas bon sens. Ça n'a pas bon sens. Après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, les Canadiens ne peuvent pas payer leurs factures pour le logement, la nourriture et l'énergie. Après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, le coût de logement a doublé, le coût de le loyer a doublé, le coût des paiements mensuels moyennes pour une hypothèque ont doublé. Pourquoi? À cause des déficits inflationnistes qui augmentent les taux d'intérêt et à cause des bureaucraties qui empêchent la construction des nouvelles maisons. Après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, la nourriture augmente en prix le plus rapidement depuis 40 ans. Ça n'a pas de bon sens. Les mères monoparentales ne peuvent pas acheter la nourriture pour ses enfants. Il y a 1 sur 5 Canadiens qui manquent des repas parce que c'est trop cher de manger. Ça n'a pas bon sens que les Canadiens et Canadiens doivent souffrir à cause des taxes sur l'essence qui augmentent le prix à la pompe. Ça n'a pas de bon sens. Donc, le gouvernement promet un nouveau budget. Ce budget doit renverser les déficits, taxes et impôts inflationnistes que Justin Trudeau a imposés sur les Canadiens. Ça doit être un budget qui ramène le gros bon sens chez nous, qui ramène des plus grands chèques de paie chez nous, qui ramène des prix plus bas chez nous et qui ramène des maisons et appartements abordables chez nous. Comment? Les conservateurs proposent 3 choses pour le budget. 3 revendications pour les gens qui travaillent fort. Premièrement, il faut mettre fin à la guerre contre le travail. Maintenant, une mère monoparentale qui gagne 60 000 $ par année, avec 3 enfants, qui gagne un autre dollar, elle perd 80 sous dans la réduction de prestations et des taxes. Nous, les conservateurs, revendiquons que le budget réduise les impôts et les autres pénalités. On a besoin d'un système qui récompense le travail et encourage davantage de travail parmi nos gens. Deuxièmement, ramenant les prix plus abordables chez nous en éliminant les taxes, impôts et déficits inflationnistes. Les déficits de 500 milliards de dollars de Justin Trudeau augmentent l'inflation et les taux d'intérêt. Il faut contrôler les dépenses. Les conservateurs revendiquent des contrôles sur les dépenses en éliminant le gaspillage sur les consultants à haut prix, coupent d'autres gaspillages dans le gouvernement et mettent en place une limite légale pour contrôler les dépenses. Ça va nous permettre d'éliminer les déficits inflationnistes pour réduire l'inflation et les taux d'intérêt. Troisièmement, ramenant des logements plus abordables chez nous, en éliminant la bureaucratie qui empêche la construction des nouvelles maisons. Les gardiens de privilèges dans les gouvernements municipaux empêchent la construction. Le gouvernement fédéral envoie l'argent pour l'infrastructure à ces grandes villes. Il faut attacher Des conditions, oui, des conditions. Si des politiciens provinciaux, excusez-moi, des politiciens municipaux empêchent la construction, ils devraient recevoir moins de l'argent pour l'infrastructure, mais s'ils accélèrent la construction des maisons, ils devraient recevoir davantage. Donc, on devrait encourager la construction. En fait, il faut ramener le gros bon sens chez nous. Le gros bon sens. Des chèques de paie plus grands qui récompensent le travail, plus de logements abordables, moins d'inflation. Celles sont les revendications du Parti conservateur. On veut un pays qui fonctionne pour ceux et celles qui ont fait le travail. Les travailleurs, d'abord et avant tout, c'est ça la priorité des conservateurs. Thank you. Now in English. There's no common sense. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, inflation is rising faster than at any time in 40 years because of the $500 billion of inflationary deficits he has piled on. Those deficits increase both inflation and interest rates, which have caused monthly mortgage payments to skyrocket for everyday Canadians. His carbon tax makes food, gas, and groceries more expensive, which means that now 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals because they cannot afford the price of food. 9 in 10 young people say they'll never be able to afford a home because inflationary deficits drive up interest on mortgage payments and local bureaucracies block construction. Everything feels broken. Most of all, the deal is broken. The deal that if you work hard, you get a house, good food, a good living, and a good life. That deal has been broken, and Justin Trudeau is the one who broke it with his inflationary policies. The budget is coming. Conservatives want the budget to make Canada again a country that works for the people who've done the work. We have 3 demands. 1, bring home powerful paychecks with lower taxes that reward work. We have a war on work in this country. A single mom earning $60,000 a year who has 3 kids earns another $1. She loses 80 cents in income tax, payroll tax, and benefit clawbacks. That punishes work. The people who do the nation's work are punished more and more each day in this country. We wonder why we have a labor shortage. You punish work, you get less work. But Conservatives want this budget to reform and cut taxes and clawbacks so people bring home more of each dollar they earn so that hard work once again pays off. 2, we need to bring home lower prices by ending the inflationary carbon tax hikes and deficits. That means capping spending. We propose cutting back on high-priced consultants that now cost $1,400 for every household in Canada. Cutting back on bloated waste in government and bringing in a legal dollar-for-dollar cap on spending. Every dollar of new spending in this budget should be matched with a dollar of savings so that taxpayers and the economy can catch up with the exorbitant cost of government under Justin Trudeau. Getting rid of these taxes and deficits will lower the cost of gas, heat, and groceries, and will bring down interest rates so that Canadians can afford their mortgage payments once again. 3rd, bring homes people can afford by removing the government gatekeepers, freeing up land, and speeding up building permits. Right now, Canada is ranked 64th in the world for the time it takes to get a building permit. We have the fewest houses per capita in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. No wonder our housing affordability crisis is the 5th worst on planet Earth. Countries with much less land, more people, and more money are paying less for real estate. Why? Government gatekeepers prevent us from building. Government gatekeepers add as much as $600,000 to a unit of housing in Vancouver and about $350,000 to the cost in Toronto. Now, these gatekeepers are local, but the federal government sends them infrastructure money, and it's time to crack down on the gatekeepers. Enough sending big fat checks to municipal politicians who are causing homelessness and poverty by blocking home building. Our Conservatives want financial penalties for big cities that stand in the way of construction and building bonuses in the form of higher infrastructure transfers to those cities that get out of the way and let houses get built. Remove the gatekeepers, build more homes, bring homes that people can afford. In essence, Conservatives want a country that works for the people who've done the work. The senior who can't pay her heating bill because of the rising carbon tax. The 30-year-old who's working hard and doing everything right but loses his paycheck to higher taxes and therefore cannot afford a home. The people who honored their end of the deal, got a job, worked hard, contributed, but are living in poverty. It is for them that we fight, those who work hard, pay their taxes, and play by the rules. It is the common sense of the common people, united for our common home, Canada. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you. Thank you. He's going to say a quick word. This is my Shadow Minister of Finance, for all who don't know, but you all should know, because he's the best Shadow Minister of Finance around. A businessman, a hard worker, trained in finance, and a strong voice for the people of Calgary and all of Canada. Fire away.
Thank you, Leader. As the Leader said, Canadians, hardworking Canadians, have kept up with their end of the deal. Justin Trudeau has not only not kept up with his end of the deal, but he's broken the deal. This is forcing 1 in 5 Canadians to skip meals. 1.5 million Canadians who are visiting a food bank in a single month. In my riding, I remember a single mom when I was door knocking who had a for sale sign on her house. And when I went up to the door and spoke with her, she just was laid off from her energy sector job. And she showed me her energy bill. And she said, I've been heating my home for years. Why am I being forced to pay for something I've been doing normally for many years before? And she was talking about the job-killing, economy-killing carbon tax. And because of Justin Trudeau's deficit spending and for spending more money than all prime ministers before him combined, she's had to put her house up for sale because she just cannot afford to feed her kids and to pay her mortgage payments any longer. This is Justin Trudeau's Canada after 8 years of his failures. My family came here with very little, and I'm very proud to be with a leader who came up from very little. But this country gave families like his and mine and many others an opportunity. That opportunity after 8 years of Justin Trudeau is lost, where now we see 1 in 5 newcomers want to pack up and leave. And the number one cause of that is the high cost of living. Justin Trudeau's deficits are not only driving away talent, but they're making more and more people go into food banks. We just saw a Mississauga food bank had a 41% increase in usage year over year, just in January alone. This is Justin Trudeau's Canada. Justin Trudeau needs to live up to his end of the deal, while hardworking Canadians continue to live up to theirs. Let's bring it home.
Mr. Poilievre, can you address the Inflation Reduction Act from President Biden? They're pumping more than $300 billion into the economy. What do you think a Canadian government needs to do to compete in this budget?
We need to open Canada up for business, to bring home more of our mines, our manufacturing, and our jobs back to this country. The biggest obstacle is that you can't get anything built in Canada. We're ranked 64th in the world for the time it takes to get a building permit. By the government's own admission, it takes up to 25 years to get a permit to build a mine. We've been talking about, you want to talk about the green economy. What do you need? Minerals, lithium. 2021, we mined not a single tablespoon of lithium in Canada for electric car batteries, even though we have the 6th biggest supply. Why? Because it takes forever to get a permit to dig a mine in this country. I spoke to First Nations leaders from the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario. They were telling me they've spent $50 million to get a permit for a highway to get to the eventual mine. Forget the permits for the mines themselves. You know how much of that highway's been built? Not a single meter. I asked them if the shovel was in the ground, and they said the snow shovel is in the ground because they have snow roads. If you want to build, you need to get the government gatekeepers out of the way to bring home our mines, our factories, and our jobs back to this country. That's the biggest obstacle to this. The second thing is we need to get the punishing taxes off of the backs of our industrial production. We give money to businesses to ship our jobs and our technology to other countries under Justin Trudeau, but we punish those that set up shop and bring home jobs here. Let's do exactly the opposite. Poilievre government will get rid of the red tape and the gatekeepers, and we'll reform the taxes to bring home billions of dollars of mines, of resource development, and other production right here in Canada.
Can I ask you about bail reform? Can I ask you about bail reform? The justice ministers on Friday, provincially, federally, came to some agreement about moving ahead with bail reform. What would it take for conservatives? What do conservatives want to see in any bail reform package that Minister Lametti might present?
Well, Trudeau's broken bail policy, catch and release policy, is causing a wave of crime right across this country. In Vancouver, the same 40 people were arrested 6,000 times. 40 people, 6,000 arrests. That's 150 arrests per person per year. The criminals laugh at the cops. When they get arrested, they say, hey, it's morning, I'll see you at noontime, because they know they'll be back out on bail because Trudeau passed a bail reform that allows criminals same-day release even when they have a long rap sheet. So here's the deal. We need common sense bail reform that says that multiple repeat violent offenders who are newly arrested should stay behind bars until their trial and, if convicted, their sentence is complete. That would massively reduce crime. Trudeau has, after 8 years, caused a 32% increase in violent crime, a 92% increase in gang killings. This is all the result of his catch and release policies for repeat violent offenders. Let's crack down on the repeat violent offenders who are causing the vast majority of mayhem in our streets, and let's bring home safe streets for Canadians.
Mr. Poilievre, do you think that
First, a 6% tax goes into effect on all alcohol.
Yes.
The Finance Committee has already said they want this frozen. The beer industry is saying it's going to be damaging for their sector. Do you have any confidence, and do you think the government will listen, and why do you think that this should be scrapped?
Conservatives believe that now is the worst possible time to raise any taxes. Trudeau's already caused 40% highs in 40-year highs in inflation. Canadians cannot afford to pay any more. They're paying more for heat, housing, and energy. It's almost enough to drive a man to drink, but Trudeau wants to tax you more for that too. We're calling on the Trudeau government to cancel all of its planned tax increases. Its planned tax hikes on energy through the tripling of the carbon tax should be canceled. His planned tax increases on alcohol should be canceled, and his tax increases on paychecks should be canceled. Let's bring home lower prices and powerful paychecks.
So is Canada spending too much on Ukraine right now, in your opinion?
I think we need to get results for our money, and we support an end to Russia's illegal and unjustified invasion. What the problem with this government is it's not that they don't spend enough, it's that they don't achieve enough results for the spending they do. They spend too much on back office bureaucracy and not enough on frontline military equipment.
Can you clarify on the Inflation Reduction Act?
This gentleman here, and then
You're saying spend a dollar, cut a dollar for every dollar spent.
Yeah.
What would you cut? You've alluded to some things, but where would the cuts come from?
Well, I would defund the CBC. I would get rid of a lot of the spending on the high-priced consultants. We're now spending $22 billion on high-priced consultants. That's $1,400 for every Canadian. Trudeau has doubled the budget for consultants, as one example. We have to find another example. He's going to be spending $5 billion going after people who are licensed, registered rifle owners, hunters, going into knocking on their doors and trying to confiscate property that they legally acquired. That money should go into frontline border services to protect against the smuggling, which is actually causing the violent crime. So those are some prime examples of how we can reallocate money away from waste and put it on the front lines. Bring home savings, bring home lower costs, bring home powerful paychecks.
Last question.
To be clear, on the Inflation Reduction Act, it seems quite universally stated within the finance world and within government that the federal government needs to put tens of billions of dollars on the table to ensure Canada can continue to compete against the $300 billion plus that Biden has put on the table. Do you agree that the federal government should be putting checks on the table to keep business here?
You can't. You can write a big check, but if the mine or the factory doesn't get a building permit, it won't happen. And that's the problem. It's the government gatekeepers that stand in the way of our businesses. For example, we could have right now 15 LNG export terminals to deliver clean emissions-reducing energy to both Asia and to Europe. It's not because of the absence of government checks that they didn't get built. All of those would have been privately financed. Why didn't they get built? Because Trudeau won't grant building permits to LNG liquefaction facility. No, the context is actually more, it's even more urgent that we speed up building permits for major energy-producing projects here in Canada. Trudeau had 15 of these LNG plants on his desk when he became Prime Minister. 0 have been completed because of his government gatekeeping. And as a result, Europe has to rely on Putin for its energy, and Asia has to burn dirty coal into our atmosphere. A Poilievre government will quickly approve LNG and other related projects so that we can ship Canadian energy to Asia and shut down dirty foreign coal. We can ship Canadian energy to Europe and turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you for listening today, and we do appreciate you tuning in to us and, subscribing to our podcast as we try to talk about those issues that we need to have fixed so that we can find equality, those things that tear down the walls of privilege and make things a right for all of us to be free, to have plenty and abundance in our coffers too, and not just those in the largely wealthy. So find that subscribe button so you can get continued updates from us about what we believe the real issues are and maybe how those issues can be fixed. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.